Good morning, guys. Or, as they say here in Berlin, Guten Morgen. Or, as they said back in the 30s, no, I can't do that. I don't want to get banned. Speaking of the 1930s, we're at a very, very interesting place. A world famous place. Well, it doesn't look like it, does it? It's a residential area here in the middle of Berlin, the German capital. But it's a very historic place. It's the place where probably Europe's and Germany's most infamous man died, or where he chilled before he ran away backpacking to Argentina. Right here used to be Adolf's, well, he's more known by his surname, Hitler's bunker. Right here. When the Russians came in and apparently found his tooth, and identified his body by his tooth. That's the story that we got told, that Hitler killed himself in this bunker right here when the war was lost, when all hope was gone for him. He killed himself, he shot himself, and then he ordered his people to burn his body, and then they just found a tooth, and his dentist identified his body. That's what the Russians are telling us. Shall we believe the Russians? The bunker here obviously got destroyed by the Russians in the aftermath of World War II because they were scared that it would become a place of worship for all the followers of Hitler around the world. Which is probably true. I mean, there's still loads of neo-Nazis existing in the entire world. Many in America, many in Europe, all over Europe. And this would have probably become like a place of worship for all the Nazi fanatics around the world. So, we're in Berlin today. In today's video, I want to make a video about Germany's, especially Berlin's, dark history. Because arguably no city in Europe, or not many cities in the world, have a history as dark and as contradicting, as crazy as that of Berlin. Which is why we're here, starting the video here, at the place where many people say World War II was ended when the Russians found the body or the tooth of the German Führer. Where now right next to it is a bubble tea shop. Now that is pretty funny, a bubble tea shop. It's closed obviously, it's Sunday. A bubble tea shop right next to Hitler's bunker. And as the world is currently, at time of recording, probably also at the brink of, with many wars going on around the world, and tensions rising in many regions of the world, especially in the Middle East, I think it was a good time to come up here to Berlin, to a city that has witnessed wars and destruction and extremism from all sides like no other city in the world probably. Right then, when Hitler died here in this bunker, the Führer bunker, as they call it, his last layer before the Russians came, Berlin got absolutely destroyed by the Russians. Obviously, the Germans, the Nazis, did very horrible things to the Russians, to the Eastern Europeans. They saw the Eastern European as a race to be dealt with. And in their wars in the former Soviet Union, Poland, and also in Belarus, Russia, Ukraine, they did very horrible things to the Soviets, to the Russians. And the Russians obviously took revenge, but in a very, very hard way. When the Russians came to Berlin, the entire city got destroyed. For many Germans, those in the west of Germany, to be precise, the end of the war signaled the start of a new era. It signaled the start of the era of freedom, the era of freedom of speech, freedom of labor, the end of dictatorship, the start of capitalism. After World War II, Germany got divided by the winners. The Western Allies, the US, the British and the French, they took the west of Germany and they decided to make good capitalists out of the Western Germans. Virtually they didn't punish them for the war. They helped build the country back up. And Western Germany, which was controlled by the Western Allies, especially by the Americans, became the Germany that it is today. But the East of Germany went to the Russians, or the Soviets as they were called back then. And Eastern Germany virtually became a Russian puppet state, a Russian satellite state called the DDR, as you can read over there. The DDR. And Berlin, the capital of Germany, got divided, even though Berlin was in the middle, right in the middle of the DDR, the communist DDR, Berlin also got divided. The west of Berlin became the free, normal Germany of today, while the east of Berlin was part of Eastern Germany and became, like the rest of Eastern Europe after World War II, a communist shithole. No freedom of speech, no food, dictatorship, and whilst the people in Western Germany were not missing Hitler, they were absolutely happy that World War II was over, that the time of wars was over, that fascism was gone. The people in Eastern Germany lived in a different reality. They got literally punished, while the people in Western Germany got patted. So, whilst in the West they were happy that Hitler was gone, here in the east of Germany, during the 1930s, when the Nazis were in power here in Germany, well, they obviously didn't like the Jews. The Jews were considered enemies by the Germans, by Hitler's regime. And Hitler made no secret of his ambition to free Germany and Europe of the Jewish race. He wanted to annihilate the Jewish race. And during the Nazi regime, over about 6 million Jews were murdered in what is today known as the Holocaust genocide by the Nazi regime. To say sorry to the Jewish population and especially to the state, of course, the state of Israel, which got then created after World War II, Germany decided to build this depressing but very, very, also very impressive, sad memorial dedicated to the murdered Jews of World War II. The Holocaust Memorial, as it is called. And they built all of these, blocks here, right in the middle of the city, basically. It's not a nice site, it's a pretty depressing site, but that's what it should be. That's the sense of it all. But you have to give it to the Germans. It's a nice gesture. Because, to repent and build a monument such as this, to repent for your mistakes, basically, is something which you have to appreciate. Would there ever be a memorial such as this for the Palestinian children murdered in the past few years? I strongly doubt it. The Germans, during Nazi times, considered the Jews, but also the Russians, the Eastern Europeans, I should say, as an inferior race. And they conquered Western Europe as well. But they weren't as bad with the Western European countries that they conquered as they were with the Eastern European countries. They wanted to eradicate the Eastern Europeans, their race, and they did some horrible things, some horrible mass murders in the former Soviet Union and in Poland, in all the countries that are nowadays Belarus, Ukraine, Russia. And of course, when the tide turned of the war and the Russians were closing in on Berlin, taking over Berlin, they wanted to take revenge. They were super angry, they were super pissed off. They of course themselves had a, well, kind of similar dictator in power, Stalin, communist dictator. And yeah, for the Eastern Germans and the people of East Berlin, the horror became worse when the war ended, and only ended in 1990 when Germany got reunited. And what's pretty interesting about the location of this place is that right here we can see the DDR building, the building with DDR written on it. And right on the other side we can see an American flag waving. So I'm not sure, but maybe this was actually the border between East and West. Anyway, we'll see the border loads of times in this video. We'll see loads of parts of the Berlin Wall. This was East, this was communist, and this was Free Berlin, Free West. And this giant stone right here, right behind the memorial for the Jews killed in World War II by the Nazis, is apparently a memorial to the homosexuals killed in World War II. What about us heterosexuals that were persecuted, the girls that liked boys, the boys that liked girls? What about them? Did they also get a memorial? Heterophobia. Right there we can see the German police standing in front of a very famous building here in Berlin, a world famous building actually. And yeah, the times of Hugo Boss suits for the German police is over. Jokes aside, here we are in front of the Reichstag. Check it out. The Reichstag, which was the parliament back in the times of the German Reich. Right after Hitler came to power in January 1933, a month after he came to power, the Reichstag, the building here, was burning. It was burning down actually. And of course, Hitler and his friends, they used this, Hitler and his Nazi friends, they used the burning down of the Reichstag, for the German, a holy building, for the Germans back in the days, a holy building. They used the burning down of the Reichstag to put the blame on the communists and the Jews. They said it was Jewish communists that burned down the building. It came across as a deliberate false flag attack on their own parliament to create hate amongst the German population towards the Jews and the communists, the unwanted in the eyes of the Nazis. This building right behind me is also famous for another historic event, the end of World War II. It was here that in April 1945, two Soviet soldiers or two Russian soldiers climbed up the building and waved the Soviet flag to proclaim the taking of Berlin, the absolute taking of Berlin, and the absolute surrender of Berlin, and the absolute surrender of Nazi Germany in World War II, and thus the end of World War II. But interestingly, the writing on the building has remained the same. It isn't that old German writing, dem deutschen Volke, to the German people. Of course, as you can imagine, when this wall that separated the free west of Berlin and Germany from the Soviet communist dictatorship of East Berlin and East Germany, many East Germans or East Berliners of course tried to flee and get over the wall into the free side of Germany, into free liberal West Berlin. And of course this was illegal, and many East Berliners died in trying to do so. And here you can see a little monument, memorial, remembering some people that got shot, executed in their attempts to get over the wall and cross the border into freedom. And right ahead of us, guys, is probably Berlin's and maybe Germany's most famous site and attraction, the Brandenburg Gate. Check it out. During the time of the DDR, when Berlin was divided into West and East, the Brandenburg Gate, this famous tourist attraction, actually was a no-go zone, a buffer zone, like a no man's land between East and West. The border between West Germany and East Germany ran right through the middle of the Brandenburg Gate, and the Brandenburg Gate was literally abandoned during 45 years or whatever, during the entire existence of the DDR. Nobody even touched this ground that I'm walking on right now, and nobody walked around here, nobody took care of the Brandenburg Gate, because it was a buffer zone, it was a military buffer zone. Nobody really knew what was going on here, who this belonged to. It was basically the place where people that tried to cross from East Germany into West Germany, that tried to cross the wall, got shot. One of the many places where this happens. But yes, it's amazing to think that about 30 years ago it wasn't possible to walk here, and now it's like Berlin's and Germany's most famous attraction. Check it out, all the tourists out and about. Very interesting. When we were in France, we obviously had to go for some baguette. Now it's only just if we're in Berlin, we go for some typical famous German dish, some Currywurst. Hallo, guten Tag. Könnte ich eine Currywurst haben, bitte?
Das alles?
Ja, das ist alles, bitte.
4,50 bitte.
Bitte.
Danke sehr.
Danke sehr. People of Berlin, by the way, are super friendly. I haven't told you yet. So this is Currywurst. It's basically a very typical German dish. Little snack here. I reckon it's not going to be enough for lunch, but yeah. And for €4.50, that's all right. I mean, considering that we are probably at the most touristic place in Berlin. So you get this Currywurst, which is some German sausage with curry sauce on it. It's typically German, and you get it with a baguette, a little bread here, not a baguette. So yeah, let's give these Currywurst a try. It's been ages since I had this, maybe like 20 years. So yeah, provecho, bon appetit. It's basically just sausage with some Indian spices on it. It's spicy, it's good. Right then, guys, we're now at a very, very famous place here in Berlin. Another very significant place of the city, the Potsdamer Platz. And here, right here, guys, we can see a piece of the famous or the infamous Berlin Wall. Check it out. You can even touch it. Wow. As Gordon Bancroft would say, you can feel the Sovietness of this wall. It was only erected in 1961 by the Eastern Germans, by the Soviet Germans. In 1961, the government of the DDR erected this infamous wall, the Berlin Wall, to stop people from East Berlin, East Berliners that were suffering from communism, to escape communism and get into the free liberal West Berlin and West Germany. So they erected this wall and basically isolated West Berlin. West Berlin became like an island in the middle of the DDR, which was part of West Germany. And yes, this wall here, of course, symbolized, the split between East and West, not only in Germany and in Berlin, but in the world in general. This might sound a bit disrespectful to say now to some people that lived in this time, but I would have loved actually, I wasn't born yet when the Berlin Wall fell and Germany got reunited and stuff. I was born quite a few years after that, but I would have actually loved to see what it was like here during the 1970s and 80s when the city was totally divided by this wall. Actually couldn't even come close to this place, it was all fence. Right then guys, it's time to check out the metro of Berlin. The station looks kind of retro, I like it. This must have been around here in the Adolf days. And I also want to go for a good kebab. Germany is renowned, I don't know if you guys knew, to have Europe's best kebab. To have Europe's best kebab outside of Turkey. Some retro photos of Berlin's past here in the metro station. Interesting. I like it. Looks super modern. Retro station, but modern train. I like it. It's not as modern as the one in Quito in Ecuador. Had to change trains. And this one here looks a bit older, a bit more old school than the last one. Now we're going to the DDR, to East Berlin. Right then guys, we've made it to East Side Berlin, East Side Mall. We have right ahead of us, the graffitied East Side of Berlin. Looks a bit rougher here than in the touristic center where we've just been. Check it out. Looks a bit more like the anarchy side of Berlin, for which Berlin is obviously also very famous for in Europe. This is Warsaw Street, check it out, Warschauer Straße. Warsaw Street. I wonder why they've chosen this name. Warschauer Brücke. Probably because this was the bridge from which the Germans in 1939 marched towards Poland. East Side Bakery, everything is called East Side here. So about over 30 years ago, like 35 years ago, this was the DDR. You wouldn't have had graffitis here, you wouldn't have had freedom of speech here. Probably you'd have had at this bakery, for instance, a large queue, as was usual in communist countries. And man, the Germans here in Berlin, they like to bike. They like to cycle around the city. Like, they've got this cycle part of the street, and if you walk on it, they get very angry. They show their true side. The angry Germans. Right guys, spotted a kebab shop. Actually two of them. Here we've got a Späti night shop. Späti actually means, spät means late in German. So Späti literally means laties. A latey shop. And here we've got a Bistro Istanbul. A kebab shop named after Istanbul, so it should be good. Why does Germany have so good kebabs and so many kebabs? Because loads of Turks live here. That's why they've got their reputation of having the best kebabs outside of Turkey. Okay. So, it's kebab time. Right then guys, got myself a giant dürüm kebab. Check it out. Durum is like kebab, but in a wrap version. I prefer it that way. But look how giant that is, man. It was €8, which is not too cheap. I expected Berlin to be a bit cheaper. But honestly, look at the size of that thing, man. You could slap somebody with that. And I also got myself an ayran. If you guys don't know what ayran is, it's like a Turkish yogurt drink, and I love it. It was just €1, so it came to a total of €9, which is, yeah, it's alright. Love it. It's good.
Yes. Where from?
I'm from Luxembourg.
Oh, yeah.
I'm from Vietnam.
Vietnam, cool. I want to go to Vietnam. Let's give it a go. Man, nothing in this world tops a good kebab. If I would be dying, and people would say, if I would be on death row, and I had one last meal, it would be a kebab. Kebab is the only thing I miss when I'm in Latin America about Europe. It was on the 9th of November 1989 that the wall of Berlin, the Berlin Wall here which I'm touching, officially fell down, and communism officially lost, and the DDR was over, and Germany got reunited, putting an end to the horror that the people of East Berlin and East Germany went through after World War II for another 40 odd years. And now this remains here of the Berlin Wall have been turned into a kind of street art gallery. The East Side Gallery, they call it. Yeah, it's safe to say that the city of Berlin and the people of Berlin, which lived through it, they went through a lot. They went through very difficult times. Destruction, rebuilding, fascism, communism, you name it. Check it out, guys. The beautiful Spree, as this river is called in English, the Spree, as the Germans would say, right behind the wall. So if you jumped over the wall and made it past all the fences, made it past all the gunshots, you still have to swim at the other side, where down in the water you probably got shot. So yeah. Anyway, guys, tomorrow it'll be a different kind of video. Well, for you guys, in about a week or something, you'll see it. It'll be a different kind of video. No history. It'll be the modern side of Berlin and the modern, issues that Berlin is facing. From the Berlin Wall at the Spree River, it's hasta luego, amigos. I'll see you guys in a bit. Thanks for watching, and see you in a bit.